Welcome to the Troubled Artists Podcast, Episode 33, Ryan Satterfeal.
Welcome back to the Troubled Artists Podcast. Today I am here with Ryan Satterfeal. Ryan Satterfeal is a SAG-AFTRA actor and writer whose work has won numerous awards, including his latest short film, Life Unexpected, in which he starred in. So Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show. So before we begin, I do like to ask this one question. Tell us in your own words, who is Ryan Satterfeal?
Ooh, yeah, that's a deep one. I don't know if I've been hit with that one right off the bat in an interview before. Me, I'm a person who's always taking in, absorbing, and growing with the human experience, the human condition, which is yes, essentially what acting is, but it's also I think just who I am as a person. Is I just kind of take everything in, I absorb, I observe, and I notice very fine detail. I'm a person who likes to be inspired through others.
I am curious to know, just like, how did you get into acting in the first place? Was it something you discovered early in life or later in life? Just kind of tell us about that.
Compared to, I would say most and definitely many of my peers, it was later. Most of my friends who are actors, they already started when they were in, grade school plays or community high school drama club or something. And I didn't really have a whole lot of that growing up. So I kind of found and fell into it when I was in community college because I was playing in a band at the time and we had just released our first record and I was doing part-time at college because we were still playing shows and selling copies. And I needed some extracurriculars to finish out my credits for my degree. And the advisor sat me down and he was like, well, I know you play music and there's an opening in this acting class. And I thought, I play live music and I guess theater, it's kind of similar, let's try it out. So I said yes. And then when I got to the theater where the teacher and the coach taught, I walked in and I'll never forget it. The teacher was on the stage. He was on the phone. And he was like walking back and forth. And then there was another kid sitting out in the house. So I went in and I sat down next to him and kind of asked him, what's going on? And he said, I don't know. So the teacher gets off the phone, hangs up, and he turns to the two of us and he says, so here's the deal. You two are the only two who signed up for this class. So I either have to cut this class and you have to find a different extracurricular, or I can put you in my advanced class that meets later in the week. So the kid and I kind of looked at each other and we decided we'd try it out. So with no experience, I was going into an advanced acting class that was full, and I had really not acted. I didn't know it wasn't even sure what a monologue was at that point. Really, really naive. And so I got there very nervous, very intimidated. And everyone's up there and I'm thinking, man, everyone here is really good. It's really interesting. But as we went on, I started to really understand it. It felt very freeing in a way. And my teacher, I remember at the end when we'd finished the class, he really encouraged me to go on because he said you grew exponentially in a really short amount of time. And at first, when I was going into university to kind of finish out my bachelor's, at first I was looking at other degrees, but I kept thinking about that class and how it was one that it just really stuck with me, and that was rare. And so as I was like doing orientation for a different major that I was going to do, I still had in the back of my head, like, what are you doing? What are you thinking here? And I got home and I changed majors that day. And then I had to audition for the university program. So I still had to audition for this thing, even though I'd signed up. And I remember my audition for the program. I still cringe when I think about it, because if I was a casting director watching my initial audition for this program, I wouldn't have said yes to me. Like, I remember how this went. I started because it was mid-July or something, and I went to the wrong location in my hometown because I like switched the names on the location, so I went to the wrong place. I showed up to a wedding reception thinking that I was going to my audition. And I walked in and there's balloons everywhere. And I'm like, I got my headshot and resume in my hand and I'm thinking, I'm here. And they said, no, that's on the north side of town. So like, oh, So I park on campus already about 20 minutes late, and I'm running across the quad in like a button down and khakis in mid-July. So I get in there, and the person who was the audition proctor who was running the auditions, I'm out of breath, and she's like, "Are you okay? You need water or anything?" I was like, "No, no, I'm good. Let's just go." And somehow they accepted me, and I got my start kind of in the collegiate and then community sphere. And I started doing plays and short one acts, and then I got into film while I was there through like student film projects in the area.
Wow. That's a very cool story. Just like how it all started from like that one class and how you had like little to no experience and then we're just kind of thrown in with the wolves with the advanced class. But I am curious to know just like what is like your main preparation when accepting a role? Like you get a script and you read it, it's really cool and you want to be a part of it. What's sort of like just your main preparation when it comes to getting into a character?
I think it really varies dependent upon role and script. It changes. It's never really a constant. My preparation is really fluid. Sometimes it's very like I'm writing everything down. I'm, writing down thoughts and opinions, and I'm writing down, tactics and wants and needs and everything like that. And then other times it's almost instinctual. It's almost like I read it and I start getting hit with how this feels. And when I know how it feels, I'm like, with me, subtext was always really important. And that's also something I'd recommend to actors who are training and, going out there is know why you're saying what you're saying, not just the words, but why. Why this? Why now? Preparation. I would say some things that are common across roles is kind of just figuring out where is this emotionally for me? Where is this, am I a thought process? Like, what does this feel like? And when I read scripts, things will hit me off the page and just immediately because as I'm reading the script, I'm envisioning everything I'm reading. I'm seeing it. That inspires thoughts and subtexts and desires and inner life and everything else that actors study. But it's really script to script. I don't go in superimposing anything on the script before I let it hit me first. It's almost like I'm thinking, what does this script want me to do? Like, what is when I read this, when it hits me, it says, this, you got to do this. What is that? And if I find that thread, I go on it.
What have been just like some of those highlights so far in your acting career?
And one that hits me right off the top of my head is when I got my SAG card. That's a very much a milestone for any actor, and it's really a special moment when you get it. And any actor listening who's going out there and maybe, newer or fresher and really wants to do this as a, career and profession and really go for it, you're going to get there. Like to any actor listening, I don't want to discourage you. You're going to get there. You keep at it. You keep pushing. You keep doing this. You get through all of the many nights that come where you're thinking, am I doing the right thing? Am I screwing this up? Oh my God, what's going on? If you still get through all that, you will get there. And the SAG card, it was this moment when I was looking at it, I said, I know I'm on the right track here. So there was that, and Life Unexpected, of course, because that film, of course, it won awards. I was very honored to receive Best Actor at a film festival for that film. It was really not only well made, but it's the crew and the cast behind it. Filming was just always just really fun. It was just always really on set, and that feeling of let's go, let's do this. Every project I've worked on has been that way, but I remember that one definitely had a certain spark to it. And then when I got my first network credit on Chicago Med for NBC, that was just unreal. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. Because when I got the email that I booked it, I was still just in shock. Because it's the first time, so you're thinking to yourself, "Wait, really?" Like, because as an actor, you're used to either hearing no or not hearing anything at all, and typically it's the latter. So when you do get that booked it, and it's a widely known network show, you're just sitting there in silence for a second, just thinking to yourself, "Is this real? This is real, right?" And yeah, those three definitely stand out in my head because those were moments where I was like, I'm okay, I'm on the right path here.
Let's start off first with Chicago Med. Like, how did that project come about to you, and just how was your overall experience working on such a big network show like that?
Yeah, I got the audition through a local rep here that I had at the time, and it came through, and it was kind of similar feelings that when I get an audition, I'm like, okay, where's this at for me? What do we do? And I went and I definitely got coached for it, which that's another tip I have for actors, like coaching. It's important. It doesn't stop. And I remember I had this feeling doing the audition where I just had this really good feeling during the audition, this kind of grounded, present clarity that I had. And when I booked it, of course, it was just total shock and awe. And then the filming of it was smooth, very smoothly done. The set ran quick. The crew is very talented and sharp and welcoming. They were all very welcoming. The cast was, everybody on set was very welcoming, which is nice to feel, because when you go in on a big set like that and it's, your first time, you're a little intimidated, you're a little scared a little bit. But when you get there, it's just kind of this little almost like city where everyone kind of knows each other and they're just moving real quick. And it was a good feeling to be around.
I was curious to know also just about the short film Life Unexpected, because I saw that it won, like you said, several awards, for you at the, I think it was like the Crown Film Festival or
Crown Point International,
Crown
yeah.
Point International, yeah, and yeah, I did see it because it was on YouTube. Again, really great film. I was just curious, like how that project came about to you and what the overall production experience with that on that particular short film.
I remember, I think one of my friends passed my name along to try out for it because I thought I'd be good in the role. And I read the sides that I was given, and it was one of those things again where like I felt like I understood it. And so I auditioned, and I remember they wanted to kind of do like a chemistry slash screen test, almost like a chemistry read screen test, like in person. That was new to me because I wasn't used to that yet. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting step, but it's also a really, from a filmmaking perspective, a very smart step. And I went there and got ready, did my thing, did the screen test with my co-star Rachel, who's also in that film. And it was, yeah, it was really, again, that feeling of just calm presence, that feeling of ease. And then the production of it was quick and easy. I think we did maybe 1 or 2 days of shooting for that. I think maybe, and like all bang boom done. And I remember I knew some of the other actors there at the test who were also ended up in the film as well. And yeah, it was. I'm still stumbling here because I'm just trying to describe it because there's just so many good things I can say. Yeah, I remember because at the screen test there was a lot of parts in the movie where my character has a lot of like voiceover dialogue, but not in the scene dialogue. There's some of that. So there was also thinking of what the voiceover would be saying during that scene and trying to understand what the internal life of that behind those statements would be, and trying to make sure that radiated. So that was a cool thing I got to do during the chemistry read and screen test.
I was curious to know just like what is like particular things that you look for when it comes to working with a director.
I definitely look for like vision. I want to see, what do you want this to be? Instead of, not instead of having like an idea, like you have a full clarified vision of what this is, with the everything from the characters to the plot to even surprises you want to put in there. I want to see what your vision on it is. I like grounded realness, realism, reality. I like things that there's a strong undercurrent that, like, when I read the script, I can almost feel it. And when I feel that, there's just something internally that trusts it and go, yeah, yep, I see it here. I like directors who not only are easy to talk to and have like a good sense of humor, but also are strong leaders on set. Because really, directors, when you're on that set, you gotta lead the charge there. Something else I would look for is what's your plan after project completion? Like once we're done, it's wrapped, it's edited, color graded, locked, everything like that. What's the plan after that? Is it festivals? Do you want to do a local screening? Like, what's the future plan? That's another thing I'm curious about. But struggle wise, and I'm sure many actors listening to this will wholeheartedly agree, is there's a couple that stand out. And number one is most actors are going to have a day job. Like you just, this business, you almost have to, unless you're, rocketing up to the A-list like immediately. You probably do. And that's tough juggling that at times because actors' schedules, they change variably. We're the last to know. If you're going to get booked, if you're going to, be needed in 3 days, you're really not going to know until almost to the wire, unless they have it, so carefully planned out to where you know exactly. But especially in the TV world, turnaround's quick. Turnaround is real quick in TV because you might get notified that you booked and then you got to film in a couple of days. So you're at your day job, you're trying to move things around, trade things up, or IOUs or whatever you got to do, doing all that stuff, quick. So that's definitely a challenge. And the other one too is that there's peaks and valleys in this business. There's times when you're going to feel like you are on top of the world and you're just at the top of the mountain, you're crushing it and everything's great. And then there's going to be other times when you're sitting there and, things have been kind of quiet and your head starts spinning. Having to manage that is also a challenge for probably most actors listening to this too. Those moments where you're like, okay, it's been a little quiet. What do we do here? That's the challenge of keeping that out so that you stay healthy and you stay positive and that your head's not spinning, because this business is unlike any others. It's not a traditional job per se where you get a certification or a degree and you get your 6-month review and then boom, you're promoted and you're working all the time now. It's very much not like that. As was told to me in school, you don't go out there and you're not actor from 9 to 5. That's not how it works. So having that in your head and staying confident, optimistic, training, and in that moving the momentum forward, that's also a challenge. It's something where I tell people, remember why you got in, because that's going to help you on the days when you just want to quit and throw in the towel. What was the thing? What was the spark that really threw you into this? Not like, I'm kind of interested in this, but the thing that threw you like mentally, emotionally, physically into this. That's the thing that's going to keep you going. And some people get in because, they see the red carpets, they see the flashing lights, the nice suits, and the soirees and the festivals, and all that's fun. It really is fun. I'm not going to lie. It's fun. But it's also canceling plans because you got to do a self-tape because you have 6 pages of dialogue that you have to get in that you just got. And now you have to have it done and in like, 2-3 days and a full polished audition. So it also means putting up your self-tape lights and your camera and everything up at like, 10, 11, midnight, whenever, to get it in and get it done. It does mean some time sacrifice on that end. A lot of times it is doing all that, sending that in and not hearing anything, or not getting the no more than you get the yes a lot. It's also that, because you see all those stars on the red carpets and yeah, they're doing well. They're at an awards show, they're on television. They're doing well. But there's also, at least for a lot of them probably, and some of them, there were a lot more no's in their early years than there probably were yeses. There's probably a lot of times that they got told no for XYZ reason and just had to keep on keeping on.
I was just curious to know just what sort of projects are you like currently working on? Anything that you're going to be acting in soon, or anything that you're writing? Do you have any projects that are currently in the works?
Right now, I've been doing some writing and also learning about writing because screenwriting's a little new for me. So I'm obviously still auditioning, still acting, and putting my stuff out there as much as I can, and working on some of my own material, some own like monologue material so people can see some more range, see some more work. But I'm also writing my own scripts. I've written one feature, like a more of a thriller, and then I'm working on a romantic comedy right now that I won't release too many details on. But yeah, I got into screenwriting because my first script, I remember the final scene of it was the first thing I thought of, and it just like kind of popped into my head. Almost like I was sitting in a movie theater watching it on the big screen and kind of like imagining it, seeing it as a viewer in a movie theater. And I was watching it and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then I thought, so how do I get here? And right after, yeah, because I think I was like in the shower, and then like all of a sudden, boom, like the last scene just shone right before my eyes. And I was like, wait a second. And I was like, okay, this is something here. I remember I like got out, dressed, cleaned up and everything, and I immediately like went to my notebook in my room, and I like wrote down the first title I thought of, and then I just wrote down like what I was seeing and everything, and then I got whatever like the screenwriting software I could find, and I just started writing at it, and then I started doing the note card thing, where you put different scenes on different note cards to kind of put it along to see where does this move, where does this shift. Yeah, and I think like in a couple of months I had like a 97 pager thriller, because I didn't want to do like, I didn't want to do like a, 2 hour, 40-minute thriller. I was just like, if I get this thing made and it's a 97 minutes, that can be shown in a theater and you can still have time to catch a double feature if you want, or make it to dinner on time. I was like, I didn't want to make it a 3 hour long one. I was like, no, let's keep this nice and sweet, like nice, sweet hour and a half feature. And yeah, I discovered in writing that it helped my acting too, because it helped me assess in scenes relationships between characters and undercurrents and things like tone and mood. It really helps me see all of that and feel it more in auditions that I get. If you sit down and think, I am going to write today, like it might not hit you then, but when you're in line at your coffee shop and you're not even thinking about it, and all of a sudden just you see the scene right before your eyes, you're like, oh crap. Or when you have that moment where you're like, that's it. My God, that's it.
Yeah, I've had moments like that, and it's really cool. It's just like when you have those moments like that, those sort of aha moments, and you just got to write it down, and whether it's like just a scene or a title or a character's name or a line of dialogue, yeah, it's really cool. And like how you said, like, okay, we have that. How do we get to that point?
In order to really get it going, sometimes you have to just make it yourself. I mean, I remember hearing something like this. I can't remember if it was a director. I think it was. They said something how the best film school is just making your own film, because you're going to learn. And I'm still hoping to, make some of my own, on my own, to get all that. So I'll get my reps in there as well. But doing that, you're probably going to learn, and I'll probably learn this myself when I do it, is what works, what doesn't work, things that you shouldn't do next time, things you should do next time, and everything therein.
We've talked about like advice like throughout this episode, but is there any like sort of last minute advice that you'd like to share to other actors that are listening, or just like other artists in general? Any advice that you'd like to give?
Yes, I would say continue training, because that doesn't end. And a mentor of mine would always say, take care of the human, then the actor. Make sure you yourself are okay. And also know that have a community, because whether that be a theater, whether it be a group of actor friends, have a community, because to go at this solely by yourself with no group to talk to or everything, that's hard. That's hard. So definitely have community. Study the business as well as the show. So the craft as well as the business, study both. You need to know both, because they do shake hands, for lack of a better word, more often than you think. Yeah, just remember the joy and the fun of it all, because there's a lot of things that might stress you out, but just remember the joy and the fun of it all. We are in the business of entertainment. That's what I always stress when I talk to people. I was like, it's the business of entertainment. That's what we're in.
Thank you for tuning in to the Troubled Artists podcast. Have a great day.